Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today this is I think probably the last review, at least the last stem cell clinic review that I am filming. And there's a reason for that. And I am debating whether I should, whether I should be doing this review or even posting it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Hopefully it will upload at some point. But I think this will probably be the last one, and you guys will see why when I talk about it. So there is a clinic in Cancun. So this was the farthest clinic as far as the clinics that I did consultations with. The majority of them are along the border, border of California and Mexico, border of Arizona and Mexico. And then there are several that are in Puerto Vallarta, which is like a 3-hour plane ride, not too far. Cancun is a bit farther away, and I'm pointing this out for a reason. I will be talking about this later on. So this place is called Rehealth. I don't know if it's Rehealth Stem Cells. Their Instagram is Rehealth Stem Cells, but the clinic itself is called Rehealth. They do have 2 clinics. The other clinic, the sister clinic, is called Stem Cells Cancun, and I believe that is the original clinic. And that is a pediatric, it is now a pediatric clinic. And they specialize in treating children with autism. And I think they do have, pretty good business. It seems like they have a pretty steady clientele there at that clinic. And then I guess from there, they opened this other clinic, and this is like the clinic for adults and just people that are going there to get stem cells for whatever other issues. So I had this consultation. This was, I think, the first consultation that I had. The first of several in the fall of 2021, the year before I did my exosomes treatment here in the US. The reason I did the consultation, and this was kind of what got the ball rolling on my consultations, is because the gentleman who developed the exosomes that I eventually used, he is the scientific director of this clinic, of both clinics, that clinic and the pediatric clinic. And so I was trying to avoid having, exosomes done here in the US because I knew it was a risk for my doctor. And so when I Googled his name, because my doctor had told me, she said, Google him, you'll see the research that he's done, blah, blah, blah. The first thing that pops up is this clinic. So I was like, oh, maybe they do exosomes there in Cancun. I wasn't thrilled with the idea of having to fly. I don't know how far it is, like 5 hours, 6 hours to get to Cancun. But I figured if they do the same treatments there, it would probably be better for me to do it there than to do it here in the US and risk her license and, whatever other issues. They do not do exosomes. So this clinic specializes in stem cells. They use umbilical cord MSCs. I think they do a couple of other things. I think they do, PRP, NK cells, natural killer cells. They don't do much at this clinic, at either clinic. It's mostly just stem cells. And their selling point is that they are umbilical cord MSCs, and they have their own lab on site. If you've watched my other reviews, I mentioned how a lot of these clinics do have their own labs there. They try to use this as a selling point, but a lot of these clinics have their own laboratories. So it's not really that special. They also are in clinical trials, or they were in clinical trials for, using the stem cells for COVID. Again, that's nothing special. A lot of these stem cell clinics are going through clinical trials, using their product, to treat COVID. Those are going to be selling points that these clinics are going to try to use on you. It's nothing special. A lot of these places have their own labs. They do have I think the one thing that is unique is they do have their own banking. And this is for the pediatric clinic because in the kids, they use their own stem cells. And so they do have a banking where they could keep some of those stem cells in their stem cell bank. And then if you have to take your child back for more treatment, they can use their own stem cells. They have them already there. So they don't have to extract the stem cells from the child again. It's just one time, and then they bank some of them and they just expand them, I guess, in their lab. I guess that's the only special thing about this clinic, but if you're an adult, they do not use your own stem cells. They use their umbilical cord MSCs. So my consultation was with Dr. Ortiz. They have two doctors, Dr. Alberto Ortiz and Dr. something Ulloa. What is his first name? Dr. Eduardo. So they have these two doctors. I think that's all the doctors they have. The clinic, the director, the scientific director, whose name I'm not mentioning, he doesn't work there. And I've spoken to this man. You guys will. I've avoided doing this review because I don't want to talk about him and I don't want to mention his name, but I have spoken to him. He is not a treating physician. He is just a scientist, so he cannot treat patients. And you guys know how my conversations with him have gone. I don't like him, and I think he's a shady character. So my consultation with Dr. Ortiz was very good. He's very informative. It was like an hour long. One of the things that's kind of funny is he has a very deep voice. He sounds like he's like in his 50s. He sounds like a much older man. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, you know, I talked about this in another one of my reviews, is that older doctors tend to have more experience. They tend to see more patients. They tend to see more cases of different types of illnesses over the course of their time as doctors. And so, you know, and also to his voice, it has this like air of authority. He's not a mean guy. He's really nice, but that deep voice has this air of authority. And when, you know, we were having the consultation and he goes, you know, he was looking through the paperwork that I filled out and he's like, you know, you're a couple years younger than me. And I was like, what? Like, it didn't hit me until after the phone call. I was like, this guy he's like my age. And at the time I was like 36. So he was probably like 38. So he's relatively young. And the other doctor looks even younger than him. So keep that in mind, that these guys are really young. They're both male. I don't think they have any female doctors at this clinic. I've talked about that also in another review. So don't let the authoritative voice fool you. And he's actually the clinic director. So he is one of the treating physicians, but he's also the director of the clinic. And I'm just like, this guy he's probably like 40 years old at this point, and he's the director of the clinic. So take that how you will. He's a young guy. They're both very young. But it went very, very well. And he knows the scientist guy. So we both know him, and you know, I spoke to him about my own doctor, my treating physician here in the US. We talked about exosomes. They do not do exosomes at this clinic. And actually, he said something like, we're not permitted in Mexico to use exosomes, which is weird because there are several clinics in Mexico that use exosomes. So that was a little bit, looking back on that now, I think that was a little bit weird for him to say. So, you know, he is now looking back, he is kind of a salesman. And he was telling me, he's like, you know, no offense, you know, I know that you trust your doctor a lot, but, you know, we do believe that stem cells are better than exosomes. You know, exosomes, you could have some kind of reaction to them. You know, stem cells are much better, you know, for the purposes of, you know, what you're treating. You know, it was a good consultation. He spent a lot of time with me. When we were done with the consultation, I went back to my doctor. As you guys know, my doctor said no to stem cells. She said, you're going to regret it. And she said, you know, exosomes are better because they pass a blood-brain barrier. So I decided to challenge this guy. And I sent him back a lot of the information that my doctor had told me. I said, you know, stem cells are too big to pass a blood-brain barrier, blah, blah, blah. And I sent him this email. And he sent back like a dissertation. So he is very, very thorough. He's going to answer all of your questions. He's going to send you a gigantic email answering everything. and telling you what other things they can do. For example, he said they could do intrathecal, which is where they put the stem cells into your spine, into your spinal fluid, and then they can pass into the blood-brain barrier, which I'm not thrilled with that. He reassured me it's totally safe, blah, blah, blah. And I think we exchanged a couple of emails, and he's very, very thorough. He'll get back to you within a couple of days. He's very, very thorough with his responses. He's just, I mean, like I said, he'll send you this like dissertation of information. In that regard, I was very happy. You know, it was easy to schedule an appointment. They were on time. You know, it was a phone appointment. He is a doctor. The other guy is a doctor. And, you know, I was very happy with the consultation with him. My bigger issue was with the scientist, the chief scientific officer, who also has a stem cell laboratory here in the US. And the fact that I don't like him and some people that he does business with. One of these people that he does business with, another individual, his name is like John something, or he has a really weird long last name. And him and another gentleman got into a big problem with a stem cell lab here in the US. They sold contaminated product. They basically blamed it on the doctors, that the doctors weren't storing it properly. But again, if you're selling this to multiple different doctors, I don't think that's a them issue. I think it's a you issue, because it was different doctors and they were all storing it incorrectly. So there was a huge thing where like a dozen people got really, really sick. I believe they became septic and they had to be hospitalized. And this man is a partner at one of the clinics here in Cancun. I think it's the pediatric clinic. And I think at one point they were using some of those products. Don't quote me on this. I'm not 100% sure. So that was part of the reason why I was very apprehensive into going to this clinic. You know, because I really did a deep dive into this clinic, let me tell you, and into this clinic and the other clinic. And at the time, I did not know that the exosome product that my doctor wanted to use was developed by the same individual, by this scientist gentleman that is the scientific director of Rehealth in Cancun. I didn't know until 3 months after I had done the infusion, and we all know how that went. Check out my exosomes playlist. Now, I think, you know, if I would have known, I'm not sure how much different my decision would have been, but I definitely wasn't going to go to this clinic in Cancun. The estimate that they gave me was, I believe it was $18,000, and it's 3 infusions. One of the things that they do say on their, you know, on their website or on their Instagram is that we customize a treatment to each individual case. They don't. And I've said this before in my other videos, they do not customize a treatment to each individual case because they can't. They can't do that. There are no clinical trials for Lyme disease or for stiff person syndrome or for MS or for whatever with stem cells. They can't customize a treatment protocol to you. This clinic literally just does 3 infusions of stem cells, $18,000, and you're done. And that was one thing that I didn't like, is that they advertise it as we, you know, it's a customized protocol to you, to your individual issues. It is not. They're just, you know. And the other thing too was, I asked them, I said, how is this performed? Because, you know, if it's the way that my doctor did the exosomes, which it's every other day, right? 7 days, but it's every other day. It's 3 infusions, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He was like, oh, however you want to do it. It could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It could be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It could be, and I was like, okay, that's not customized to my individual needs, right? So I could already tell from that point that, not that they have no idea what they're doing. It's just an infusion of stem cells and, you know, you're on your way. And the reason I mentioned the distance, for example, this is all the way in Cancun, is because if things don't go well, which there have been, I think if you look at the reviews, I think there have been incidents where things have not gone well, you're far away. You're not going to take a plane back to Cancun to go and complain to them. Nobody's going to do that. And I think it makes it a very, very ideal location, because to be honest, most of the stem cell clinics are along the border. And like I said, there's several in Puerto Vallarta. There's, I think, one in Guadalajara. typically they're along the border because it makes it easier for people coming from Canada and people coming from the United States to have a stem cell clinic in Cancun. And they're not the only ones, because I think Geostar also has a location in Cancun as well as Guadalajara and along the border. But to me, it's kind of like that's a little bit out of the way, right? It's a little bit farther out. It's not exactly probably the best place to have these clinics. But I think it's a very smart business decision, because if things go wrong, nobody's going to come back and get angry at you. And if they call or email, you can just ignore that. And that's what some of the reviews that I saw said that they called and complained because things did not go well. And they were just like, they stopped answering me eventually. For $18,000, that's a lot. And a lot of these clinics are going to say that they have follow-up care and that they, contact you, like every after a month, then after that 3 months, and after that 6 months. I wouldn't believe that, and I wouldn't rely on that either, because if your treatment doesn't go well, they know right off the bat things did not go well, and it's not going to get any better. For example, my situation. So, being in Cancun is good for them, and it's bad for you because it's a lot farther away, unless you're over there. Unless you're on that side of the US, it might be closer, but it just seems kind of like a very out of the way spot if you know where Cancun is. I didn't know where Cancun was, to be honest. Like I said, the price point is high. It's $18,000. I'm glad that I was able to at least have a consultation with the doctor, because if I'm going to pay more than $10,000, I should be having a consultation with a doctor. But again, it's not a customized protocol. Don't believe it when they say that. And again, they do have their own lab. Who cares? It's not that big of a selling point. Like I said, this gentleman that got in trouble over here with the contaminated product, he partnered, he's one of the partners for one of these clinics. I wasn't a fan of the chief scientific officer. I have talked to him a few times. Right now, you guys know what's going on with him and with my doctor. And I just do get this vibe from him that he is just not a trustworthy person. This is a money-making it's a money-making business. And he does a lot of the chief scientific officer. He does a lot of podcasts. He's doing a lot of networking. He's definitely trying to sell this. And it was funny because when I spoke to him, he was like, yeah, stem cells are better and stem cells are the way to go. And when I spoke to my doctor, she was like, I don't know why he's telling you that. Why is he telling you that when he knows and I know that exosomes for your specific symptoms are much better? She said, I don't know why he's telling you that. He knows this. He's researched this. And, the exosome treatment didn't go well either. I doubt that the stem cells would have been any different. But he wanted me to go there because that's guaranteed money. That's $18,000, and $18,000 that I am never going to get back. Whereas here in the US, actually, no, I think it was 19, because I paid $18,000 here, and that was, I think, like $1,000 more. So it was like $19,000. So you're looking at like at least $20,000. So that's a guaranteed $19,000 that they get. No refunds, no nothing. Here in the US, I could sue, for my money that I lost, because it's not legal to do these procedures here in the US. So I think he really, really wanted me to go over there and to just have it done there, because it's money, and I don't know if it's money in his pocket. He said that the clinic belongs to investors. So when he told me that, I was like, okay, well, you need to put money in their pocket. You have to answer to this group of people that invested in your clinic. So I can see why they're trying to direct people over there. And as I mentioned earlier, it's weird that they don't do exosomes, and he told me we can't do exosomes here when a lot of clinics do. They don't do a lot of other things either. NK cells, PRP, they do injections into joints, which you can easily get that done here along the border. But as far as a clinic, it's just a stem cell clinic, and that's it. It's they don't even offer like IV, vitamin IVs, things like that, as far as I know. So it does seem, I think of all the clinics, this one was one of the most expensive and one of the clinics that did the least amount of stuff, that offered the least amount of treatments. And you have Geostar right down the street that at least offers, vitamin IVs and hyperbarics and other stuff. So it's very, very strange to me that this clinic, they have competition there. They have competition there. They have competition in other parts of Mexico, but they don't really offer much. It's just a really, the issues that I've had with the chief scientific officer, just my conversations with him, he could care less. I'm going to tell you right now, he could care less. I think these doctors, particularly Dr. Ortiz, were selected. They're working there because he's good. He's good at talking to you. He's very polite. He's really nice. I didn't get this vibe of arrogance. He knows how to talk to you, right? He knows how to talk to you to make you feel comfortable. He's very polite. He was like, no offense, but, your doctor may be thinking this, this, and this. So he does know how to kind of sweet talk you in a way. So it is a bit of a sales pitch, and I can see why, because it's very expensive and they're not offering you much. I just feel like it's not worth it. This clinic was not worth it, especially knowing what I know now and just seeing how hard they push. Like I said, he does podcasts, he's done radio shows to try to advertise this clinic. And I don't, if you are offering, a good product, and if you have testimonials, if there are people that have been helped by your clinic, then the clinic speaks for itself. And really, they don't have a lot of reviews. Rehealth does not have a lot of reviews. World Stem Cells Clinic, which is their sister clinic, does have more reviews, but again, they're focused a lot on autism. And that's the other thing too, is that these kids, many of them may be nonverbal or have limited verbal abilities, so they can't really say, oh, this helped me. It's based on their own parents' observations. So again, this is a foolproof business plan. You can't really say, and they're also using the child stem cells, so you can't really say that the stem cells being used at Rehealth, just because they come from an umbilical cord. I don't know. I don't really know. He did tell me, that the scientific officer guy, that the product that I received comes from the same cell line. So technically, I've received this product and it didn't go well for me. So I can't really say that I would recommend this clinic. I think it's a waste of money. I think, again, they're more concerned. They are very concerned with appearances, right? They do pick you up. They drop you off at the clinic. It's very clean. It's very like modern, futuristic looking. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for looks. I'm paying for a treatment that I'm hoping will help. And I think they're more focused on, we look cool, we look modern, we're a clean, state-of-the-art facility, because they talk about that on their Instagram. We're state-of-the-art, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that doesn't matter. in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't matter. But anyways, my throat is drying up. That's my review of Rehealth Stem Cell Clinic in Cancun, Mexico, or at least my consultation with them. I did not go to them for the reasons that I stated in this review. So thank you so much for joining me. Watch my other reviews. If you haven't checked out my exosomes playlist, do that as well. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.